What happened to the silly and nonsensical Christmas movies that leave you with a warm feeling inside?
Dear Santa, lose some weight and get a real job.
We have lost our way as a society. Hey, it's Allie, welcome or welcome back to my channel, and 'tis the season for not doing my finals. Instead, what I wanted to do was embrace in the nostalgia that I never had. So I asked you guys what your favorite Christmas specials were, and well, here we are. I asked this question right here on YouTube in my community tab, so if you want to be a part of the next time I ask questions for a YouTube video, go ahead and give it a subscribe, like the video while you're down there, leave a comment as well about your favorite Christmas movies, and let's jump into it. So I chose 3 movies today that I think are all distinctly different, that I've never seen, and that somehow, some way, all together form one central theme. So let's play a little game, see if you can guess what the theme is out of all of these movies that tie them together, and leave it down in the comments below. Our first movie is All of the Other Reindeer, made in 1999. I have never seen this movie, but Drew Barrymore was an executive producer, so it has to be good. Now, this movie follows Olive, who is a dog, not a reindeer, as she goes on a journey to try and find Santa to help him out. Christmas is canceled because one of the reindeer got injured and therefore he cannot fly. She is accompanied by a penguin named Martini, who is like this con man, and he's the best character in the movie, and he should run for president. So there's this man named Tim who doesn't play a super important role in this movie other than to cause the inciting incident. He is Olive's owner, and he's just like an asshole to her for like no reason. At the beginning of this movie, he just lashes out at her, calls her like a dumb dog, and he's mad that she doesn't do normal dog things like run around after like mail trucks and bark at like cars and stuff. And I don't know, it was just weird. He was giving weirdo vibes, all right? Like maybe he doesn't need that dog like at all. And she's also friends with this flea, which this flea had no reason also to be in this movie other than to further the inciting incident. That being that Olive is hiding from Tim in her shed because she's scared of him because he fucking yelled at her like crazy. And the flea is like translating what he is saying outside. Like he's trying to apologize and trying to say that he needs her and like all this stuff. And the flea somehow like mistranslates all of it to the point where I thought he was doing it like on purpose to be like malicious, but at the end he also seems sad that he said all this like negative nasty stuff about her. So I guess he really did not hear it properly. She could have just like, it's a pretty big dog house, she could have just like stepped out and like listened to him. But hey, it's an inciting incident of a children's movie, we're not gonna get too deep into it. So she decides to just run away and go find Santa to help him, because on the radio when Santa said that Christmas was canceled, he said, unless I get all of the other reindeer to help me, I don't know if Christmas is gonna happen. And the flea hears that and goes, oh, he said Olive, the other reindeer, that's you. And Olive just believes it. She's like, oh, okay, guess that's me. And so she gets a bus ticket with Martini to go to the North Pole. We are also introduced at this point to the villain of the story, who I didn't think was going to be the villain of the story. It's the mailman. And I don't know what this movie thought was going to happen in like 20 some odd years since it came out, but I'm low-key on his side. Like, come at me, but I'm low-key on his side. He talks about how he is extremely overworked and has to carry a bunch of letters and packages in his bag all day long, day after day after day during the Christmas season. And that's his villain origin story, is that he is underworked and probably also underpaid. Now, if he wasn't such a comical villain in this, like doing actual supervillain shit, he would have a fair point. He would have an absolutely fair point. If he didn't like kidnap Olive and like try to just ship her off somewhere, he would have a very fair point. He deserves a raise, and he deserves at least one of those little mail carts that he can put packages and like little papers in, and so he has something to roll around on the streets instead of just that one sack. I'm just saying, justice for the mailman. This movie's animation surprisingly holds up very well. As a like 3D animated movies, they tend to not hold up as well, and I think it's because this one is so heavily stylized. Like Spider-Verse, who? I don't know her. Okay, she led the way. Olive, the other reindeer, led the way for stylized 3D movies, because this looks like a storybook. It looks absolutely 2D, like little stickers on a page, and it's actually really cute. And it's something I could see myself like showing other young children or people who haven't ever seen this movie like me. Like I would definitely show this movie to somebody, because I do feel like the animation has just held up really well over the years, and it makes for something truly whimsical. So Olive eventually gets to the North Pole and she tells Santa, hey, I'm here. I'm Olive, the other reindeer that you called for. And he's just like, I don't, what? The humor in this movie is so funny. It felt like I was watching like an old school episode of SpongeBob, which just makes me miss old school episodes of SpongeBob. But it's one of those where it's like, clearly this is a family movie. Like I would say early SpongeBob is a family show. And when I say family, I mean in the sense that like everybody can watch it and get something out of it. Like people were saying this about like early Disney movies, how they were family movies instead of just movies extremely dedicated to kids. Like, yes, there are elements that are for kids, but largely an adult can walk out of a movie liking it. When I used to like see Disney movies every year with my mom during like Thanksgiving, she would always actually be really excited to see them. Nowadays, not so much. But the humor in this is really funny. There's a scene where she gets thrown in the back of the mail truck and the mailman is trying to drive back to wherever so she can't help Santa, and she finds a package that is addressed to her that is labeled Deus Ex Machina. Like, what child? Like, I was -1 when this movie came out. What child is going to see this and know what that is? No, like that's such a family moment. That is for the family. And if a child doesn't know what that is, they ask their family. And if their family tells them about it, or in just like 20 years time, when I'm watching this movie as an adult, I'll know what it is and think it's fucking hilarious. Anyway, she meets Santa and Santa is like, sure, can you fly? And she does end up flying because this is a Christmas movie. Come on now. And they end up saving Christmas. Forgot to mention, but there's a part in this movie where Olive ends up going to this bar near the North Pole, and there's a bunch of like naughty individuals. They're all kind of like rugged and rough, and they don't really care if Christmas is saved or whatever. And they're like messing with her. They sing a song. There's a couple of songs in this movie. They're all bad. I'm not gonna lie to you, they're not good, they're not catchy, they're not memorable in any way, shape, or form. Sorry if you like them, I don't. This is like the one part of the movie I didn't like, so yeah, that's why I didn't mention it. Overall, this was a very wholesome movie, and I would watch it again. I would show it to other people, especially if they haven't seen it before. So because of that, I'm going to give it 8 Rolexes with 3 X's out of 10. Okay, so the next movie I watched was Klaus, that came out in 2019. Now, I didn't know much about this movie other than that it was very popular on Tumblr when it came out. So this should be interesting. So this movie follows Jesper, who is a privileged child whose dad is trying to make him into a postal worker. And his dad also owns like this big giant postal empire. And like, I know this begins at home with the parents, but this is a grown man using weaponized incompetence to act like an actual baby at the beginning of this movie. This was not what I was expecting. Everything that I've seen about this movie from like Tumblr was just like rosy cheeked. Oh my God, the joy of Christmas. I was not expecting it to start like this. So his dad gets fed up with him one last time and he ships him off to this town called Smearsburg, where he needs to get 6,000 letters in order to return home to his cushy lifestyle. Oh my God, let me tell you this animation. Oh, the animation. Like, this is 1 out of 2 reasons why Tumblr loved this movie. It is the #1 reason it was recommended to me. Even Smearsburg, which is supposed to be this drab, gray-looking town, is so beautiful. The shape language on all of the characters and the architecture in this movie is very, like, sharp and jagged. And, like, even the colors, like, they use a pretty cool toned palette for, like, most of this movie because it's supposed to be cold and oppressive and this, that, the third. And it is so beautiful. So beautiful. And when you can see the warmth of the colors slowly start to seep back into this town, and the music direction in this, like, it won Oscars, babe. It won an Oscar. Like, there's a reason for that. Like, there was a song that was playing when the first child got the first gift, and it was like, I did cry. I did cry. So I forgot to mention, but this is a origin story for Santa and Christmas at large. Even though the holiday of Christmas exists, this is the myth of Santa Claus, basically. So in this town, it is warring between 2 factions of families, and they just hate each other and they go at each other like every single day. And now Jesper finds this little kid who drew this little picture of them being in their house all sad, feeling trapped. And he accidentally keeps the letter, and he ends up at this woodsman's house because he's trying to find everybody in town to at least give it the old college try, which I think says a lot about his character, because despite the fact that he was, you know, trapped in this town and he's so used to luxury and not really ever lifting a finger, he immediately tries like really hard to at least get out of the situation that he's in, which I think says a lot about him as a character and being like really determined, especially if he puts his mind to something. And I thought that was really cute, like a cute little notice of his character, if you will. So he ends up going to this woodsman's house, and he's big and he's scary and he's mysterious, and Jesper is this little twink little man with an attitude. Reason number 2 why Tumblr loved this movie. And the woodsman ends up seeing the picture, and he makes the child a toy. They deliver the toy in the dead of night, and the child is happy. So word starts to get around. Jesper starts to tell them like, hey, if you write letters to the woodsman, I'll send it to him and he'll make you toys. It's a really creative way to show the like myth of Santa Claus. It's so cute. It is, oh my god, it is so cute. The like montages of these kids in like a very drug deal style, like writing letters to him. Turns out that most of the kids in this town cannot read or write because they don't go to school, because the townspeople who fight each other don't care about their kids going to school. They only care about fighting each other. And the teacher, who like loves to teach, but she got to this town and it was horrible, so now she just sells fish, ends up, you know, caving in and teaching a lot of these kids to read and write. So it quickly becomes this story about like community and forgiveness and learning and all this stuff, and it's just so beautiful that I'm not going to spoil the end for you. I will spoil this one part because they do this always in these types of movies. At some point, his dad comes back to get him. Like, the elders in the town are tired of Jesper, and they're like, you know what? We're just gonna help him get to his 6,000 goal and get him out of here. And no one else knows about the 6,000 goal because eventually, like all these movies, he forgets about it. He falls in love with the town. He doesn't want to leave. But then the bad guys find out about it, use it against him, and now everybody knows about it. However, I would argue that Klaus, the woodsman, doesn't care. Like, he never really cared, but the girl lady, I forgot her name, she cares and she's mad at him. And so he's just like, well, I gotta go. Like, I'm being shunned away. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I actually really do care about this town now, even though I didn't in the beginning. It's not a very strong, compelling, like, how dare you type of moment, because it's like, he never did anything wrong. Like, he was never, yes, he was, I guess, using the town, but he never did it in a way that actually caused anybody any harm. Like, he got children to go to school. Like, I don't see how that is wrong. Like, okay, and then if he chose to leave at the end, like, he clearly doesn't want to. Like, if you just, like, talk to him for, like, 5 seconds, I don't know. It was the weaker version of these types of tropes, which is why I don't mind saying it, because these tropes always happen. It's like, oh, the guy who was indifferent about the thing in the beginning, now all of a sudden he cares, and they find out that he was indifferent in the beginning, and for some reason they don't see that his character has changed over the course of the movie, so he leaves, but then he comes back and he's the hero and saves the day, which is exactly what happens. However, his father makes no sense to me. His father was the one who sent him here. Were you not expecting him to change? Like, you wanted him to become a better person. That's the why you did all this in the first place. So then why would you make the reward for him becoming a better person returning to his cushy, privileged, bratty lifestyle? Like, wasn't the whole point, like, if you would have just brought him back home, and if he did just want to come back home and he didn't change as a person, you'd be back to square one with him. So I don't understand that part, but it doesn't matter because he tells his dad what happens. His dad is proud of him. He stays at the island. Everything is good. Everything is great. Christmas is saved. I will not spoil the exact end of this because there is a plot twist at the end of this. It is very good. It's about community. Please go watch this movie. 10 out of 10 Santa Claus DILFs. All right, so we have made it to the final movie, which is Tokyo Godfathers, which came out in 2003. Strap on for this one. This is a mature movie. There's no crazy gore or anything like that. It is a adventure movie that is set in like realistic Tokyo. So it is about 3 homeless people, and it's a pretty mature movie, so just understand that. It's definitely like 18 plus. But if you were to tell me that the best Christmas movie that I've seen in a while is an anime movie, well, I'd say that tracks. Tokyo Godfathers is about 3 homeless people, a middle-aged man, a trans woman, and a young girl who find a baby while sifting around through the trash on Christmas. And a lot of them seem to think that this is a miracle baby that somehow ended up in their care, and instead of going straight to the police, Hannah, who is the trans woman, always wanted to be a mother, and so she ends up saying, like, I'll take care of this baby just for the night, let me have this, and then in the morning we will return this to the police and there will be no issue. And it's Christmas night. This movie takes place between Christmas night and New Year's Eve / day. And of course, hijinks ensue. So this is another one of those like really well, all of these movies are really well animated and they hold up so well over time. Like this movie, this movie looks so good. Like I think the thing about like animation is the only way that it won't hold up over time is like obviously like really dodgy 3D animation, because like you could go back and watch like Kung Fu Panda, and Kung Fu Panda still looks great to this day. Like we know that technology has like surpassed Kung Fu Panda, but it still looks really good. 2D animation even more so. This movie was made in 2003, and other than stylistic choices, you would have never known that. If you didn't know that what stylistic anime movies looked like in 2003, there's no way you would have guessed that this was made in 2003 without looking it up. The premise of this movie is that they're trying to find the mother of this baby. Each of them have their own reasons pretty much for believing that they do not have a family. And that is why they are trying to find the parents of this child. Because despite the fact that like Hannah grew up in a foster system from person to person to person, she doesn't want this child to go through that, even though she knows that her mother may not have wanted her, which is why she was in the trash in the first place. Oh, the baby's name is like Kyoko, by the way. They named the baby Kyoko. She still wants to give this child some type of home, like a second chance. She wants to give the mother a second chance at this. Every single main character in this movie believes somehow, some way that they cannot return home. The young girl is a teenage runaway who did something. I'm not going to say what for spoilers, but she did something and now she believes that she can never return home. Same with the middle-aged man in this case. He believes that he cannot return home because he also did something. Again, I really don't want to spoil this movie because it is so good. It's so good. What happens through this movie can only be described as a sequence of coincidences or miracles if you're in the Christmas spirit, while they try to find this child's mother. At some point this movie turns into a mob movie because the middle-aged man owed money to somebody, but they end up randomly passing by this guy who was like dying under a car. Turns out the guy's future son-in-law is about to get married, and that dude who is the son-in-law was the dude that the middle-aged man owed money to. And then the young girl who was holding Kyoko at the time gets kidnapped by the guy who almost shot the guy he owed money to. And they end up in this taxi that like takes them to like the red light district. They find the exact same taxi driver a little bit later and ask them to take them to where the girl got kidnapped. Also, Kyoko cries a lot during this movie, and it is always used as like a sign way to like find one another. I don't know why, but that just was like really beautiful and like heartwarming. Like, y'all know how I feel about found family, okay? And this is the found family of the found family. Now this movie is queer friendly. It was made in 2003, so it was queer friendly for 2003, but still queer friendly nonetheless. No hate crimes were committed. This movie does a really good job of making everything seem like a miracle right till the very end. Tokyo is a huge city, and despite the fact they still were able to find people who they have no business meeting ever in the history of ever, and they still met them. They still found them. They still created a community. One of the best scenes in this movie is when the young girl, you know, she gets quote unquote kidnapped, but actually the dude just takes her to his mother, and they speak Spanish and she speaks Japanese, and both of them speak very little English. And yet they have the most heartwarming time explaining to each other about their own families. Despite the fact that they can't understand each other language-wise, they are still able to understand each other's emotions. And it was such... I cried at this scene. I cried. It was such a beautiful scene. When a movie can get you this immersed in its characters and its story, you don't care how it ends. Every time one of these miracles would happen, I wasn't like, oh, there goes another coincidence. I was genuinely like, oh my God, what are the odds? What are the odds that they would meet this person at this time and find this thing and this right at the time, and they would walk past this person on the streets of Tokyo. Like, I never felt like, oh, here we go again. Another miracle happened. Oh, who cares? I genuinely felt like this is something where these people were strung along by fate for an entire 5 days. And I'm sure in these types of movies you can guess the ending. It's a Christmas movie after all. It has a happy ending, so you could probably guess what's going to happen. But I didn't want to guess the ending. I didn't want to try and predict what was going to happen next, because I just wanted to be engrossed in the story. I wanted to be present with these characters as they brought me along for just what would probably be a story in their lives. This movie is so heartwarming, and there is something to be said about anime movies that have the ability to show the beauty in the mundane. There's a word for that, and funnily enough, in Japanese it's called shibui. It is the beauty of the everyday. And Japanese movies, especially everyday movies, like a story like Your Name has this most fantastical element of time travel, but despite the fact that it has these fantastical elements, it is still a story at the end of the day about two people, quite literally star-crossed lovers, and it is so grounded because of that. And it's the same thing here. At the end of the day, everything that happened was a coincidence. There were no miracles, that this baby was magical, it wasn't magical, was the son of God, wasn't the son of God, whatever. It's the fact that these were completely fantastical happenings, and they still told such a grounded and unique and comforting story. A story about community. Hey, here's a crazy statistic for you. According to a national study done by the Trevor Project in 2022, 28% of LGBTQ youth have reported to experience homelessness at some point in their lives. And unfortunately, that number probably only goes up for adults. Now, I'm not trying to get you to do anything crazy, okay? But people are people. Everybody's human. It's the holidays. It's fucking cold outside. Be nice. Be kind, and treat all humans with respect. Okay, moral of the story over. Guess what the theme was between these three movies. Oh yes, and that movie got a 10 out of 10, by the way. 10 out of 10 baby Jesuses. Whether you celebrate Christmas or not, something these movies all have in common is the power of community and a support system. Tokyo Godfathers emphasized a point of family either by blood or man-made and the beauty in it. Klaus is a movie about self-growth and forgiveness and how none of that is ever done alone. And god damn it, Martini the Penguin is the best friend a reindeer dog can have. So call a friend, call a family member, call your siblings, drink some hot cocoa, and 'tis the damn season. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you did, you are a real one. I loved this. I didn't think I would. If we're being honest, I'm not a huge movie person. I know that's crazy, but I'm not. But I love Christmas movies because they're just so wholesome and so fun. And thank you so much for suggesting these to me because I probably would have never watched them otherwise. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I didn't get to every single movie you guys suggested. Definitely honorable mention goes to every single stop motion Santa Claus movie. I love those movies so much. They are so good. If you ever want like a fun animated time and like some old school type fun, the stop motion Christmas movies, there's like a series of them. I'm pretty sure they all take place in like the same universe loosely too, so like you should definitely watch them. The Muppets like Christmas movies are really cute as well. Just go watch Christmas movies, okay? And go have a fun time, okay? Join me next time. Next week, I will be talking about Christmas specials from TV shows specifically. We're gonna be talking about SpongeBob. I cannot wait. So thank you so much for watching again. You can catch me on all of my social medias down below. And hey, Merry Christmas, have a happy holiday, have a safe holiday, and I will see you in the next episode. Love and peace.